In RAYVN, a hierarchy consists of groups. This is managed from the top left corner. The group we're in right now is the parent group. It is called RAYVN Training. Now we're going to create a subgroup. To do so, we click on the group and a drop-down menu will appear. Here we can choose to edit the group, for example if we want to call it something else, or we can create a subgroup, which is what we're going to do right now. We will then be asked to fill in a name for our new subgroup. We can call this subgroup 1. Then we click Create. This group is now subject to the parent group, as all subgroups will be. To navigate to the new subgroup, we select the parent group and all subgroups will be listed. Now we're inside the subgroup called subgroup 1. Here we can see a row of tabs that are the same as in the parent group. All the tabs are empty, and that's because the new subgroup has the opportunity to configure their own material. Let's say that we have a scenario like this. We have an admin from subgroup 1 who's responsible for configuring RAYVN for their group. First of all, the administrator for this group needs to be added, so we'll start by doing that. In the section called Access Level, we can select the group admin role. The user will then only be able to make changes to this group because we're limiting his reach to this group and all potential subgroups of this group. In other words, this administrator will not have access to or be able to make changes to the parent group. The person will not be able to move up in the hierarchy. This applies to changes to the account setup in addition to the archive. So if this new administrator goes to the archive, they will only see content from his subgroup or their subgroups. We then press Save, and now we have a new group administrator for this new group. Then we can move on to look more closely at how we continue to structure this subgroup. All the tabs we see here belong to our new group. This means that the administrators can configure their own agency or department in exactly the same way that we work to build up the parent group, RAYVN Training. This subgroup can, for example, have its own teams, its own log templates and meeting templates, completely independent of what is defined elsewhere in the account. This opens up the possibility that it's entirely possible to bring different plans into the same account and only expose them to relevant personnel. Although we've now enabled this group to manage itself and add relevant planning, this does not mean that we have to do double the work if some of the content can be shared and used across groups. Through all the tabs, we'll find a selection option that repeats itself, and that's called Group and Availability. This is only relevant if we're building a hierarchy, as we're doing right now. Availability allows content to be shared from one group to another. We can take users as an example. Here we can see the field for availability. If we open this, we will always find 3 options. We can choose to make the content either global, regional, or local. Global users are available to all groups. This means that this user will be able to be accessed by all other groups in the account. For example, this user could then be added to a log created in the parent group. It will be able to be borrowed, in other words. Regional users will be available to this group's subgroups. If this group, i.e. subgroup 1, has any subgroups, we could have made this user available to those. All content that is made regional will only be available further down in the hierarchy. Lastly, local users are only available in the group that they are created, not up and not down in the hierarchy. We now choose to make this user regional. This means that if the subgroup 1 that we're in right now creates its own subgroup, this user will be available to them. We'll take a look at how it works with log templates in a group hierarchy. We've now created some log templates so that there is some content here. We can also choose where these log templates should be available. A local log template will only be available to be started by personnel in this group. If we had chosen global, everyone in the entire account would be able to use it. Different accessibility has different icons. So here we have defined one log template as global, and the rest are local and regional. All are owned by subgroup 1. All are owned by the parent group, RAYVN Training. We'll now take a look at what global log templates created by others look like. If If we move to the subgroup and access log templates, we can now see that we have no log templates in our own account, but on the right side of the screen, we can see that we have one global and one regional log template available to use. We can see that the log template incident has been made available. This means that the personnel in subgroup 1 will now have the opportunity to start this log template. We can see the name of the log template and where it comes from. Here, it's easy to see that it is shared from RAYVN Training. As the log template is owned by another group, it's also managed by that group, so we cannot edit it. So it will be locked for us, and we cannot make any changes to this log template. There's a lot of content that can be shared by changing availability. We will also look at meetings and see that this is often relevant. A template for the first meeting has been created by the parent group of this account, RAYVN Training. This is a generic template intended to fit all events. If our subgroup, meaning subgroup 1, also works with first meetings, a considerable amount of time can be saved by making the meeting template available. This avoids defining the same content several times. Now, we've looked at how we can share content by changing availability. The groups in this account are independent in the sense that they manage themselves and can start logs with their own personnel and their own schedules. We currently have 2 levels in this hierarchy. We will now see how we can build this hierarchy even bigger. To create a new subgroup, we'll go to the same place as earlier. Let's first select our subgroup. And now we're going to create more subgroups beneath this group. We will now access this subgroup 1 and select Create Subgroup. Now our group hierarchy consists of 3 levels. Now our group hierarchy consists of 3 levels. We can expand this as much as we wish. So far, we've navigated through the group names from the left corner. We can also use the search field for even quicker and more clear navigation. In the search field called Account Search, we can quickly see content and navigate directly through the links. The hierarchy changes and expands from the left corner, but if we want to just have an overview and quickly navigate around in the account, it is clearly the account search in the right corner that will be the most effective. We've now looked at how we build a hierarchy in RAYVN, and we've also seen how we can make content available to other groups. We see that a motivation for making content global is to ensure a certain standardization that ensures that everyone uses the same templates.